I got to interview a 101-year-old woman today. What? The 101-year-old woman I'm speaking of is my girl's great-grandmother. She was born in 1914, so I guess she's almost 102, and she is just one of the most interesting, fabulous, fire and spit kind of people, if that makes sense, that I have ever met. And a couple of weeks ago, I asked her if I could interview her for NPR's StoryCorps. For those of you who don't know, NPR has a podcast called StoryCorps where they collect stories from people around the world. I don't know if it's still on the radio or if it's just a podcast. Check that out. So a couple of weeks ago, I asked if I could interview her. She said yes, and today I went over to interview her, and it was just super freaking cool. We talked for about an hour about pretty much everything, and I'm not going to include really any of that at the moment because I want to go through all the footage and all of that, but I wanted to record right now what I'm thinking because it made me think a lot about life, number one, but also parenting and raising a child, and she obviously has a child, and parenting 100 years ago is very different than parenting now, kind of. And growing up in the world 100 years ago is very different than growing up in the world now. And one of the things I asked was if she had any kind of advice for the girls, or advice about kind of parenting and how the girls were growing up. And she kind of said that she wasn't really a fan of all of the lessons and things that they're doing extracurricularly, if that makes sense, and felt like they just needed more time to be kids and to just play. And I think that that's interesting, and it struck me because it's something that we all do nowadays, right? We want our kids to be well-educated and well-rounded and to be able to have talents in lots of different things. So we start them in swimming and soccer and baseball and piano and all of these things, which are good things for them to learn. And I think in the modern parenting world, kids kind of need to have a lot of that stuff to keep up, if that makes sense, in our society at least. But I totally get where she's coming from about letting kids be kids and letting kids just go play in the backyard. One of the things that she was kind of lamenting was that our kids can't just walk across the street and find someone to play with now, because we live in a city and it's just a very different time. And when she was a kid, she could just, walk down the block and find a friend to play with. And it's not really that way anymore. And she was feeling, I guess, a little disappointed about that, and I can understand why. The world was a very different place 100 years ago, and the world will be a very different place 100 years from now. Who knows what the world is going to look like 100 years from now. When she was growing up, obviously, she could not have conceptualized a lot of the things that are happening in the world right now. Computers were not a thing when she was a kid. We had not yet been to the moon when she was growing up, So I'm having kind of an existential brain processy afternoon. It was amazing to chat with her. I have it all recorded, so I'm going to go back and listen to all of that stuff and kind of try and put it together and make it into a thing. I just feel really lucky that I was able to talk with her a lot. She's wonderful, and if I could have my druthers, I would have her around for another 100 years. She's a really, really cool lady. So I'm going to go and let my brain process a lot of the things that we talked about and go over our interview, but I just wanted to kind of get a little bit of my feelings on film that life is both short and long, as they say. The days are long, but the years are short. No. Yeah, the days are long, but the years are short. And I don't know, there's a lot that I want to accomplish in the next 70 years. I hope I have that long. If you have any elders in your family or any people that you would like to interview for StoryCorps, or at least you'd like to interview to have a record of that for yourself, I'll put the link to the StoryCorps website that has the template of all the questions that you can ask. You don't have to ask all of the questions, you can pick and choose different questions to ask people. And if you all have had any parenting advice from your parents or grandparents or great-grandparents, and you'd like to share it, leave it in a comment below. I would love to hear about it, read about it, and I will hopefully share some of our interview with you all later, maybe later this month. So thanks for listening to my brain at the moment. Thanks for watching. I hope you all are having a great day, evening, afternoon, whatever it is where you are, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. So I didn't originally intend to be a nanny. Originally, I intended to be on Broadway.